Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're taking a closer look at Morgane Stapleton's recent transformation.
Uh-huh.
It's been making headlines, because she's lost a good bit of weight,
Yeah.
35 pounds in less than a year. But the sources we've got today, they kind of paint a different picture than the usual
Right.
celebrity slim-down story.
Yeah, it seems like
We're going to dig into that.
it wasn't some crazy diet or,
Right.
boot camp thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seems like it was much more than that.
Much more intentionally.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that even Morgane herself, she's talking about this as like a whole lifestyle change, not just
Okay.
a physical transformation.
So how is that different than just, losing weight fast? Like, what did she actually do differently?
Well, the sources are using this word holistic,
Okay.
which, can sound kind of vague, but
Yeah.
when you dig into it, she basically approached this from 3 different angles.
Okay.
Mindful eating, gentle exercise, and making time for self-care.
So not just cutting calories and, hitting the gym every day.
Exactly. It's so interesting because instead of, those restrictive diets, she really focused on listening to her body. Like what foods actually made her feel good and, gave her energy and kept her satisfied.
That makes a lot of sense. I've tried those restrictive diets and I just end up
Oh, yeah.
wanting everything I can't have.
You're just setting yourself
Yeah.
up for failure with those.
Did the sources say anything about how she actually implemented this mindful eating?
Yeah.
Did she have any strategies?
Well, one thing that stood out to me was that she started cooking at home a lot more,
Okay.
which makes sense because that gives you more control over
Yeah.
what you're eating.
Portions, ingredients.
Exactly. But it also seems like it helped her reconnect with food. Like actually enjoying the process of cooking and really savoring the food.
So it's not just what you eat, but the whole
Experience around food.
the whole ritual of
Yeah.
it. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into the gentle exercise part too.
Okay.
It wasn't about punishing workouts.
Right, yeah.
The sources mentioned things like yoga and hiking,
Nice.
activities that she actually enjoys and that fit into her life.
Yeah.
It's about moving your body in ways that bring you joy.
I think a lot of us have this idea that exercise has to be
Yo,
intense and painful
she got
to
her.
be effective.
No pain, no gain.
But this sounds so much more
Sustainable.
sustainable.
Yeah, and that's actually a word that comes up a lot in these articles.
Mm,
Sustainable changes.
okay.
It's a different mindset than that quick fix mentality.
Right. So we've got mindful eating, gentle exercise. That's 2 out of 3.
Yeah, what about that self-care piece?
Yeah. What did that look like for her?
Well, it seems like she really prioritized things that actually recharged her.
Mm.
Spending time in nature, connecting with her family, even just
Okay.
taking some quiet time for herself.
Yeah.
And the sources make it clear that this wasn't like a luxury.
Right.
This was an essential part of her well-being.
It's you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. You got to take care of yourself
Yeah.
before you can take care of anything else.
I like that.
And the sources really highlight how it's all connected.
Okay.
When you start prioritizing self-care, it has this ripple effect
Interesting.
out into other areas of your life, including your relationship with food and exercise.
Now, speaking of relationships, the sources did mention that Chris Stapleton, her husband, was super supportive
Oh, yeah.
throughout this whole journey.
He was her rock.
Do you think that kind of support system played a role in her success?
Oh, I think it definitely made a difference.
Hmm.
Change, especially when it comes to something as personal as our health,
Yeah.
can be tough. Having those people around you who get it, who offer encouragement, even just listen without judgment,
Yeah.
it can make a huge impact.
It's like having a built-in cheering squad.
Totally. Someone to remind you why you started and celebrate those wins along the way.
And pick you up when you stumble, which is going to happen.
Oh, for sure. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
Having that compassion can make all the difference.
Yeah, I'm seeing a pattern here. It's not about, depriving yourself
Right.
or these extreme measures.
It's about creating a supportive environment, both internally and externally,
Totally.
that lets you make those lasting changes.
So it sounds like that was a key factor in what made Morgane's transformation so successful. It wasn't just about losing weight. It was about taking this holistic approach to her well-being,
Yeah.
embracing sustainable habits, prioritizing the things that really nourish her mind, body, and soul.
Exactly.
This is so much more than just a before and after story.
He really is.
I'm already reframing how I think about
Yeah.
health and transformation.
Yeah.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's pause here for a moment, and we'll be back to dig even deeper into Morgane's journey and what we can all learn from it.
Sounds good.
You know, we were talking about all those non-scale victories before the break, like having more energy, feeling more clear-headed.
Yeah.
And Morgane really emphasized those things.
Right.
It seems like she was paying attention to how these changes were affecting her.
Yeah.
Like not just focusing on the number on the scale.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
Okay.
Because for years, we've been told, you know, to just focus on being thin.
Yeah.
To achieve a certain body size.
Through, you know, crazy diets and...
Yeah, all the extremes.
Yeah.
But what if instead of, you know, trying to shrink ourselves, we focused on just feeling good in our bodies?
Right.
Having the energy to do the things we love.
Yeah.
Feeling strong and confident.
That's such a more empowering way to think about it.
Right.
Yeah. It's not about, like, punishing yourself.
It's about self-love.
Yeah. It's like creating a positive relationship with your body.
Exactly.
Do you think this shift away from just focusing on weight is becoming more common?
I think it is. I think people are starting to realize that the old ways just don't work.
Right.
You know, those restrictive diets, the crazy workouts, they're just not sustainable.
And they don't address, like, the whole picture.
Right. You can't just white knuckle your way to health and happiness.
Yeah.
It's about addressing all the different aspects of your well-being.
I've been reading a lot about how stress can actually sabotage your weight loss efforts.
Stress is huge.
And how things like mindful eating and stress reduction techniques can actually help.
It's all connected.
It makes sense, right? Our bodies and minds are connected.
Totally.
But it can feel kind of overwhelming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, where do you even begin with all of this?
That's where the idea of small changes comes in.
Okay.
Instead of trying to change everything overnight.
Right.
What if you just focused on one tiny tweak to your routine?
Okay, I like that.
This week.
So, like, what kind of tweak?
It could be as simple as adding an extra serving of veggies to your dinner. Or taking a 15-minute walk during your lunch break.
That sounds manageable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about taking those baby steps.
But do those small changes actually add up?
They do. Research shows that small changes done consistently over time lead to big results.
So it's about, like, building momentum.
Momentum, yeah.
And creating good habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's less likely to trigger those defense mechanisms that can lead to weight regain.
So it's like slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do you make those small changes stick?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, because I've tried so many times and I always fall back into my old habits.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
It's tough to rewire our brains.
Yeah.
But there are some strategies that can help.
Okay, like what?
One that I like is called habit stacking.
Habit stacking? What's that?
It's basically attaching a new habit to an existing one.
Okay.
So for example, let's say you want to start meditating every morning.
Okay.
Instead of trying to create a whole new routine, try stacking it onto something you already do.
Right.
Like brushing your teeth.
Okay.
So after you brush your teeth, you meditate for 5 minutes.
That's smart.
It makes it easier to remember.
And to actually do it.
Exactly.
Because it's already built into your routine.
Right. And then once you've mastered that one small change, you can add another one.
Add another.
Another.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. It's about gradually transforming your lifestyle.
Without feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
Yeah. This is so much more realistic than, like,
oh, yeah,
the go big or go home mentality.
It's all about giving yourself permission to start small.
To experiment.
Find what works for you.
And enjoy the process.
Exactly.
You know, something we haven't talked about is all the pressure women face to look a certain way.
It's constant.
Yeah, like the media is always telling us we need to be thin.
And young looking.
And have perfect skin.
Oh, yeah. All those anti-aging creams.
It's exhausting.
It's so damaging because it sets up these impossible standards.
That no one can live up to.
Right. And it can really mess with your self-esteem.
Okay, so how do we break free from all of that?
I think it starts with recognizing that aging is a natural process.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to erase our wrinkles, let's celebrate the wisdom and experience that comes with age.
I love that.
Our bodies tell our story.
Right.
And those lines and wrinkles are part of that story.
Okay, so instead of trying to erase our stories,
let's embrace them.
Let's embrace them.
Yeah.
And you know, Morgane seems to really embody this idea.
Totally.
She's not trying to fit into some mold.
She's just being herself.
Yeah, she's prioritizing her health and her happiness.
And she radiates confidence.
Yeah.
No matter what the scale says.
That's such an important message for all of us.
It really is.
It's not about chasing some ideal.
It's about embracing who you are.
Yeah.
And making choices that support your well-being.
This is all resonating so deeply with me.
I know, me too.
I'm feeling inspired to ditch the self-criticism. Yeah, and just embrace a more compassionate and holistic approach.
It's about progress, not perfection.
To my health and well-being.
Exactly.
But before I get too carried away, let's pause here for a moment and gather our thoughts.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly to wrap up our deep dive into Morgane Stapleton's inspiring transformation.
Sounds good.
I'm really glad we had this conversation today.
Me too.
It's so inspiring to see a celebrity transformation that's not about all those crazy extremes.
Right.
Like the restrictive diets and the intense workouts.
It feels more real.
Yeah.
More relatable.
What makes Morgane's story so compelling is that she's just a regular person.
Yeah.
She's a working mom. She's got a busy life.
She's not some superhuman with a whole team of people.
Exactly.
Helping her.
But she still made her health a priority.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways that you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that real transformation comes from within. It's not about forcing ourselves to fit into some mold.
So it's not just about how we look.
It's about how we feel.
It's about feeling good in our own skin.
Exactly. And that starts with really paying attention to what our bodies and minds need.
So we've talked about mindful eating, gentle exercise, self-care.
Yeah, those are all great places to start.
But it's not just about checking things off a list.
Right. It's about finding what works for you.
Experimenting.
Yeah, and being kind to yourself along the way.
So it's about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
And another thing we talked about is the power of small changes.
Yes. Small changes can make a big difference over time.
So instead of trying to overhaul your whole life,
just pick one small thing you can change this week.
Okay.
Maybe you drink more water.
Okay.
Or go to bed a little earlier.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Just make it something manageable.
And enjoyable.
Exactly.
So you're more likely to stick with it.
And as you start to experience those positive benefits, it creates this ripple effect.
Yeah, you start feeling better, you have more energy.
You feel more confident.
And then it becomes easier to make even more positive changes.
Exactly. It's like a snowball effect.
And remember to pay attention to those non-scale victories.
Yeah. How are you feeling? Are you sleeping better? Do you have more energy?
Those are all signs that you're moving in the right direction.
Even if the number on the scale isn't changing as fast as you want.
It's about celebrating every win, no matter how small.
Absolutely.
This whole conversation has really shown me how important it is to have a good support system.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether it's your partner, your friends, your family.
Or even just a community of like-minded people.
Having people who believe in you.
Who encourage you.
Can make such a difference.
Absolutely.
It's like having your own personal cheering section.
Totally.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Morgane Stapleton's inspiring journey, what would you say is the most important thing to remember?
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Embrace the process.
Celebrate every win.
And remember that true well-being is a journey, not a destination.
I love that. So on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own deep dive into a healthier, happier you.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy diving.